Hello, hello, hello everyone. It is Teresa from Teresa's Spot for Art. I love sharing art from my heart and helping you create a little joy in your life through some fun, simple, and quick art projects. Today we are painting a lighthouse on, I guess, like a windy-ish beach. So I'm going to turn you guys around and we will get started. So I have my tracer. I have my 11 by 14 canvas. You can use whatever size canvas you like. And then I have this piece of graphite paper, well-worn graphite paper. And so, you guys have been following me, you know I've had this graphite paper for a very long time. If you don't have graphite paper, this is one of those projects that you can fairly simply hands-draw. I know I'm making a lot of noise. But I do have graphite paper, so I just slipped it under between my canvas and my tracer, shiny side down. Okay, and I pretty much eyeball my tracer to see where I want it to be. And then I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to trace over the lines. If you wanted to use a ruler, you can. It is totally up to you. I'm clearly just drawn by hand. This is a very simplistic lighthouse. You guys know, or you should know, I love lighthouses, if you've seen my logo. So, lighthouses help you in the storm, and I feel like my art helped me in the storm, and I'm here to help you in your storms. If I can do that through some of my art, so be it. Okay, so there I have my lighthouse traced onto my canvas, and we will get started. I'm going to put out a little bit of gray paint, light gray paint. If you don't have gray, use white with a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black. All right, this is my remote because now I have a zoom camera. So I'm going to put out, my gray is a little bit of a blue gray, but I think that's going to work because, you know, we're doing the sky. Shaking up my paint before I pour it out. Okay, I'm going to get a big brush. This is about a 1-inch wide flat brush. It's a little wonky. I wouldn't use this for detailing or anything like that, but it is fine for doing backgrounds. I'm just going to wet it in my cup a little bit and give it a dry, just to bring the fibers together. Even though this isn't a great brush, you want your fibers to be as close together as possible. I'm going to use a little bit of pressure on my brush and fill my brush with white paint. We're putting a little bit of pressure on it. We want to flare out the bristles, the fibers, and get paint up into the brush. And then I'm just going to put a corner into the gray. And I'm just going to start painting. That's it. And this is a very messy background. You don't want to overblend. I'm going to always be picking up white and this gray that I have. This is blue haze, but you can use any light gray, or even if a light blue if you wanted to. You can do your background. You can do your background and your lighthouse. Really, any colors that you want. And when I go to my canvas, I go one way, and then I go back over the other way. So I'm picking up white and blue. I'm starting here, I'm working one way, and then I'm going backwards again over what I painted. And that's pretty much, you want to keep it moving. You want to not overblend, but you do want to blend. I'm using my brush standing up here so I can get close to my lines without making too much of a mess. It's okay if you go into other sections of your art. This is acrylic paint, and if you get it where you didn't want it to begin with, you can in fact fix it. I want my sky down here closer to this hill to be lighter. So I am only picking up the white down here on my dirty brush and blending that in. I'll leave a little bit of the shade closest to my lighthouse, but then as I work my way into this corner, I want it to be a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to go back to the blue and the white and go back up. This is very messy. You don't want to do too much detail. You want your background to have a little bit of interest. And so the quicker you do it and the less you think about it, the better. Now here where I'm trying to get close to my lighthouse, I've actually turned my brush and I'm using it long ways, but then I'm going to turn it again and use it on the flat just to keep filling in. Okay, and then because I use a Lazy Susie, I can turn it, but even if I wasn't using a Lazy Susie, I like to turn my canvas every which way I can. And this way I'm not trying to be a contortionist and stretch out my arm. Right? So I'm back in this corner. And this is a little bit behind, so it's okay if it's a little bit darker. As it was darker close to the lighthouse, so it got lighter as it went away. We don't really have a sun in here or a light source. It could be overhead, it could be 12 o'clock, we don't really know. And I'm not going to worry about that. I'm using my finger on the dry part of my canvas so I don't make a mess, but I will make a mess because I always make a mess when I paint. But I try to space out my mess. So if I have a dry spot on my canvas right now and I can hold my canvas in place with my fingers without making a mess, at least we'll start out that way. I'm envious of people who do flower arrangements and wreaths because they're always, or most of the time, really put together because they don't have to worry about getting paint all over their clothes like I do. Okay? So if you can kind of see up here, my brush strokes are going different ways. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to go back over. So I wanted to fill in the top, but I'm going back over this section because I want all my brush strokes to be on a diagonal. Got something in there. So even though it's messy, there is a little bit of, I don't know, the texture, the diagonal texture. There is a method to my madness. And as I finish and make a little bit of top on my canvas, top coat on my canvas, I'm making sure that my brush strokes are all going the same way and they're a little bit diagonal. Just my preference for this painting. And then I'm actually going to, and this is your choice as well, pick up a brush and again, using both colors on my brush, paint the outside edge with a mix of my gray and my white. Putting both colors on my brush and then just going along and painting in the sides of my stretch canvas. You can leave your sides white. You can paint them a totally different color. You can paint them a pattern. It is totally up to you. Okay. And there we have our messy, oh, too much white, our messy background done. Now it's okay if you get some on your lighthouse. That's why we work in stages and steps like this. So if we get paint someplace we didn't really want it, we can fix it. We will fix it when we go back in and we paint our lighthouse. We're going to be adding grasses. We're going to be adding details to this. So if you get a little bit outside the line, it's not about coloring. It's okay because we will take care of that at the end. Okay? So now we have our background all done. And I'm going to wash my brush. I'll give it a little bit of a dry on my paper towel. I'm going to put out a little bit of brown. Okay. I'm going to put out some fresh white too because I contaminated most of my white with my gray. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I want to fill my brush with white, applying a little bit of pressure to my brush. I want my bristles to flare out a little bit. And then I'm just going to put a corner in the brown. Not too much, not as much as I did with the gray before for the top part, just a corner. I'm going to go down here, and we want these strokes to follow the curve of our hill. So I'm going to pick up white, I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown, I'm going to come right up under here. I can use my brush on the chisel edge if I want to make a nice straight line to match the background. And then I'm going to come in and use my brush on the flat and start painting in the groundwork. This little hill, we want to have a little curve to it, and you can make yours as dark or as light as you want. Now I'm just basically picking up white down here. I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to work my way back down. So we have a few variations of brown going on in here, some tan, some bright white. And then again, I'm going to paint the edge of my canvas. Using the same brush that I used to do the hill that already has this brown and white and now basically a tan mixture in it. And then this little edge here. Okay, the important part is when you're doing the hill, you want your strokes to be a little bit more curved, so it gives you the illusion that this is actually a hill. And you don't want to overblend. You want to see the brown, you want to see the white, you want to see the variations. And then I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to switch to a smaller flat brush. This one is about maybe a 1/4 inch wide, a little bit more. I'm going to put out some pale yellow. If you don't have a pale yellow, mix with a little white. Just going to put out a little bit of that. And the first part we're going to do is up here in what is the glass part of our lighthouse. So I'm just getting my brush and I'm painting in this section up here with this bright yellow. This is the glass top. This is where the light in the lighthouse is. I'm also going to pick up a little bit of white on the corner, and I'm just going to put a little bit of white in here as well. Just brighten it up a little bit, corner, and brighten it up with a little bit of white. Okay. Then I'm not even going to wash my brush, and we're going to go to the tan sections of our lighthouse. So if you're painting the lighthouse the way I did it, it's burgundy and tan, and we went burgundy, tan, burgundy, tan, burgundy. So these two are going to be tan, and those are the two sections I want to start with. So I'm going to not even wash my brush, it's okay. I'm going to load my small brush in the white, put the very corner of it in the brown, and then we're going to get started filling in the two sections that we want the tan in. Again, I'm using like a little bit of a dip. They're horizontal. They're not exactly straight horizontal. There's a little bit more of a dip to my brush. Not too much, not totally rounded, but just a little bit. Not a real big smiley face, but there is a little bit of an arc to my brush. Okay, fill it with white, corner in the brown, and we're going to come up here. I got a little loose strand hanging off my brush. I'm going to just cut that off. I don't need to fight with it and try and get it back in place. I'll just cut it off. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. A little bit of an arc to my stroke. And we're going to fill in this section in here too with our tan. Now, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for my YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can hit pause at any time and come back and watch this, finish it, paint it again. It is here. It is available 24/7. I just ask that you don't share it with anyone. But this is here for your art and viewing pleasure. Okay? Don't worry if the sides of your lighthouse are a little wonky. Don't worry if you got background there or like see here, this is sticking out. We're going to fix all that. We have outlines to do and it'll be totally fine. Okay? And now I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put out a little bit of this burgundy. I'm still using the smaller brush. Give it a nice dry. And we want to mix our burgundy a little bit. So I'm actually going to use burgundy and brown. I'm going to work that into my brush. A little bit of pressure so the paint gets up in there. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of burgundy again and a little bit of brown. And I'm going to come back to my canvas. Again, a little bit, not over curved, but a little bit of curve to my lighthouse. I'm going to move my canvas. Let's see if we can get this squared out here. There we go. I'm picking up a little bit of burgundy and a little bit of brown as I go. And I'm filling in this section here. Don't want to overblend, but we do want to have a little bit of a curve. See that? See, I have a little bit of a curve. You can see it better because I'm actually don't have a lot of paint on my brush, so you can see how I have a little bit of a curve to my brush, a little dip. Now, if you have a round brush and you want to use a round brush for this instead, go right ahead. It's up to you. You use whatever you feel more comfortable using. And get on the sides. And then this one last section up here. Gonna get all the white in the edges. Again, it does not have to be perfect because we're going to come back with some outlining and some shading and some highlighting. Okay, so we did our background with a mix of a light gray and white. Then we did our hill down here with white and brown. Then we did the light part of our lighthouse with some little pale yellow. If you don't have pale yellow, mix some white with it. Then we added white with a tiny bit of brown to do the two brown sections of our lighthouse, or the tan sections of the lighthouse. And then we mixed brown and burgundy to do the red or the dark sections of our lighthouse. Okay? Now I'm going to put out a little bit of black. Okay? I am going to load my brush with black, and I'm still using this smaller, about 1/4 inch, almost 1/2 inch wide brush, but I am going to pick up a little bit of white on it. So this way, the top of our lighthouse is not really totally black and stark. It has a little bit of black, it has a little bit of white, it has a little bit of gray to it. I'm going to come here and I'm just going to start filling in these sections of the lighthouse. If yours gets a little too light, you can add black. If you think you don't have enough texture going on, just pick up a little bit more white. I think I'm happy with this. I just wanted to even it out a little bit. But don't get too caught up. Let me tell you something. Don't get too caught up on your lighthouse and both sides of this being symmetrical. It's very hard. We're going to paint man-made things. They're symmetrical. They're engineered. They're built right. But if we start saying, oh, I have to fix the left, then we have to fix the right, then we have to fix the left, then we have to fix the right. Before we know it, this part of our art is huge. So at some point, you just have to say, good enough. Okay? I'm going to add a little bit more white to here. And then I'm going to work on the top part. I might have to switch brushes for the top part. This brush might be too big. And the same will be said for up here too. We want our, I'm going to switch brushes. We want the triangle cap to be as even as possible. But if we start playing with it and going back and forth, we're going to end up with a giant triangle on top of our lighthouse. And we don't really want that. And so at some point we just have to be like, okay, I did the best I could and leave it. So I evened this one out a little bit and I made the knob a little bit bigger on top and we're going to leave it like that. I'm also now going to take my black brush and I'm going to make like window panes. So I'm going to put one line on this side and one line on this side. Okay, now I'm going to put a line right down the middle. Then I'm going to put a line in between these two on the right and these two on the left. And by doing that, by doing the outside ones and then the middle one, and then each center, we have a little bit more evenness going on. Okay. While I have out my black brush, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw little rectangle windows in each of these sections. Again, these do not have to be perfect. This is hand painted. We're not using a stencil. It's okay for them to be a little bit imperfect. Okay. And we'll have the black on my brush. I'm going to outline my lighthouse. If you don't have a steady arm and it's hard for you to make like one continuous straight line, do it in stages like I am. Okay? You don't have to get a line and draw it top to bottom. Nope. I'm doing it in stages. I'm doing a little bit, then a little bit, then a little bit. I'm going to pick up more paint, a little bit more, and working my way down. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing on top of the hill. But I want a little bit to show through. I don't want to make such a solid line like I did on the lighthouse. So I had a little bit broken up as I worked my way down. Okay, and I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to get some white. We should put out some fresh white again, but this is okay for now because I am going in the sky. And we're going to do our seagulls. And the seagulls are a big, wide V. So there's one part. And there's another part. And these are just very abstract. And put another one out here. There's a curve. And we want to draw them coming in. We're applying a little bit more pressure out at the tip so it's thinner in the middle and thicker at the tip. And then I think I'll put one up here. So into the middle and then again into the middle. We're going to add a little bit of shadow to that too, but that's it for now. While we have the white on our brush, we want to just add a little bit of highlight to our windows. We want to add a little bit of highlight and soften up this black outline we did down the sides. So I'm applying really light pressure and I'm just softening up this line a little bit with some white. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of white up here on our window panes, on the bars, and on the windows. And then I'm going to go back to my smaller brush again, dry it off. I'm going to pick up some of this white, but then I want to wipe it off. So I'm loading the white on my brush, but then I'm wiping it off on my plate because I want to come in here. I'm going to stand my brush up. I'm going to put the bristles against the Lighthouse, and I'm just dry brushing some white, having a little bit of a glare on that side of our Lighthouse. Pick up some paint, wipe it off, and do the same thing on that section. Pick up some paint, wipe it off on the edge, and then again, I'm going to do this for all the sections. And then last. And then we want to do a little bit up here. And a little bit on the roof. A little bit of glare. Okay, and then I'm going to wash my brush again. Okay, now I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to get out. I think this green might be too dark. I'll get out a different green. Medium. Lush. I could use Lush, I guess. What is this? Light. I think we'll use the Lush. If your green is too dark, you can use a little bit of white in there. That's okay too. Okay. So you can use a small round. You can use your flat brush. I'm going to use my liner brush. I think grasses and brush strokes work better when you pull. That's why I turned mine upside down. I'm going to load my liner brush with this lush green. And I'm going to start adding in grasses at the bottom of my canvas. We're doing like a flick. So as I run my brush up, it gets thinner at the top. And then I'm almost like picking up my wrist. So it gets a little bit more narrow at the bottom. We don't want our grass to be really straight like soldiers. We want some of them to curve. Some of them are going to be longer. Some of them are going to be shorter. Some of them are going to be thicker. Some are going to be thinner. And I'll show you how we do them with a flat brush. Put this brush down. If you have a flat brush and you want to do your grasses, I'm going to load my brush with the green. And this is how we're going to do it. Pretend this is flat. I'm going to run my brush up and then lift. That's how we're doing these strokes. Okay? So, lift. Lift. See that? You can do these with a liner brush, with a short round brush. The trick is, when you get towards the top, you're lifting off of the canvas or your surface, and then this way your strokes will be thinner at the top than they are at the bottom. Okay, I have to see what I'm doing now, so I'm going to turn this around. I want to do a few coming in here off the sides and a little bit taller. The taller ones are easier to do with the flat brush because this flat brush holds more paint than the little liner brush. And then you can put as much grass down here as you want. If you want it real full, you can have it real full. If you want it sparse, you can have it sparse. Totally up to you. It's your art. You can just do a few. It's all good. And while I have the green, I'm going to put a little bit of, I guess, I don't know, their leaves or their seed pods up here on the top of the grasses. I'm just loading my brush and pulling down on an angle and just putting a few up here at the top. If your brush gets a little wonky, apply a little pressure to it on your plate and bring your fibers back together. Do a few down here in the grasses. These are on an angle, really light pressure, and we want them a little bit thicker at the top than they are at the bottom. My brush is getting a little wonky again, so I want to fix the fibers on it. And if you want, you can put some nicer, thicker leaves down here in the brush, growing off your grasses. Maybe these aren't grasses. Maybe some of them are reeds, marsh plants, and we're just filling it in a little bit more. Some of our stalks are going to have a little bit thicker leaves or shoots coming off of them. I'm going to do a little couple up on here too, but not too many. Okay, you want it to look a little random and windblown. And I'm going to wash my brush. Okay. Now I am going to put out a little bit more fresh white. I'm going to go back to my liner brush. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of white and put a little bit on a few of these tips. Not too many, just a couple of them just to brighten them up. Not all of them, just a few, working my way down. Okay? Then I'm going to go into my white, and we want to add a few white blades in here just to bring in some highlight. Not too many, you don't want to overdo it. Okay? Then I'm going to go into my brown. I'm not even going to wash my brush, I'm just going to pick up the brown on my brush with the white, and I'm going to do the same thing with some brown. Just a few, just to give a little bit of depth in our grass, so it's not all green. We have a little bit of brown going on in there and a little bit of white as well. I'm going to wash my brush. And then I'm going to come back to my black. I'm going to put a little bit of black on my liner brush over here. I'm twirling it between my thumb and my finger. And we're just going to put a little bit of black on the end of each of our seagull wings. Little tip. And there we have it. There is our lighthouse. You guys can see, I'm going to show you something. I have a little bit of a bump here. So I'm going to go back into my white and blue. And I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to come as close to my lighthouse as I can and straighten that out. And there we go. Let me turn you guys around. And here we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, the sun's out. I hope you enjoyed this lighthouse tutorial. I'd love to see your artwork. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye, everyone.